10 spine-chilling tales of sinister horror revealed most haunted accounts of 2025, pt. 3 inches. The decrepit town of Crestview, shadows twisted unnaturally, harboring secrets that clawed at the hearts of the living. Sarah, a 32-year-old nurse, staggered home after another exhausting night shift, her mind foggy with fatigue. The air was thick, a choking reminder of forgotten glory and faded laughter. Her little girl, Lily, was the only light in a world turned dark. But even that light flickered with trepidation as night descended. The porch creaked under her weight when she arrived, and it was then her breath hitched. Mr. Cole, the elderly neighbor with haunted eyes, leaned against her door, a grim silhouette framed by the flickering bulb. "You're out late, Sarah," he rasped, his voice a chilling echo of kindness that felt utterly wrong. His gaze was fixed on Lily as she peered from behind Sarah's legs, the innocence in her eyes overshadowed by something unnerving. Days passed and Sarah's unease morphed into dread. Mr. Cole's interest in Lily deepened, an unsettling shadow lurking behind the warmth of his smiles. Each time he spoke, there was a weighty silence that gnawed at Sarah's instincts, an echo of something sinister that brushed against her skin. Her heart raced when Lily's laughter was drowned out by the eerie howls of the night, whispers of missing pets prickling her skin like icy fingers. Then, news broke: a local girl had vanished overnight. Panic gripped the quiet streets of Crestview, and Sarah felt the fear claw at her throat. She confided in friends, but their dismissals twisted the knife deeper. Was she overreacting? Or was it right to shield Lily from the growing shadows? The whispers of the town twisted around her, convoluting her sense of trust. One blustery evening, Lily brought Sarah a hand-carved doll, the Watcher of Secrets. With glassy eyes that glimmered in the night like distant stars, it sent shivers racing down Sarah's spine. Stories from childhood emerged unbidden, tales of a town spiraled into madness, victims lost to the void, and the haunting cries that echoed through every empty street. She couldn't shake the sense that Mr. Cole, with his teasing glances, was somehow linked to the town's curse. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and so many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah steeled herself as she treaded the eerily silent streets, where echoes of laughter lay buried beneath layers of neglect. Each step was a battle against encroaching madness. She saw remnants of the town's vibrancy in abandoned storefronts and crumbling houses, but now, only despair loomed. A chill hung in the air, piling on her dread, but she pushed forward, driven by a fierce need to protect Lily from lurking dangers. Then, the scene froze her blood. She caught sight of Mr. Cole through a grimy window, surrounded by shadowy figures, motions blurred in grotesque rhythm. They chanted in dark melody, speaking of the old way, their voices a twisted harmony that echoed her darkest fears. Sarah's heart pounded violently against her ribcage, suffocating her in an overwhelming tide of horror. With Lily still blissfully unaware of the late hour and the impending storm, Sarah gasped, recoiling from the window. The truth loomed heavy in the air, entwining her and her little girl deeper and deeper into the very web of dread she sought to escape. Could she unravel this dark secret before the town swallowed them whole? Or were they already too far gone, ensnared in the chilling grip of an unimaginable nightmare? A deep breath hitched in Sarah's throat as she yanked Lily closer, shielding her from the tainted whispers that seeped through the walls like a toxic fog. The shadows danced, unyielding, as she felt their icy grip tighten around her. She glanced back once more at the window, the silhouettes inside a grotesque reminder of a dark ritual. Panic clawed at her insides. What if they were already watching her? The weight of the doll in her pocket felt like a promise of ugly truths. "We need to get inside, Lily. Now," she urged, her voice a strained whisper. Lily tugged at her hand, oblivious, still intrigued by the sinister story stacked within their home. Once inside, Sarah rushed to lock the door, her pulse a frantic drum against her skull. She turned to find Lily standing in the middle of the living room, eyes wide, staring at the doll resting on the coffee table, its dark, beady eyes glistening like watchful stars. An uneasy shiver slithered down Sarah's spine. The doll felt ominous but curiously compelling, as if it possessed knowledge buried deep in Crestview's tainted history. "Can I play with it?" Lily asked, her voice sweet and innocent, yet the lull of her words danced like daggers against the backdrop of terror surrounding them. "It looks like it's waiting for me." "Not now, honey." Sarah's voice firmed yet doubt flickered within her. Was she being irrational? It was just a doll, wasn't it? But the stories, the sense of impending doom, loomed too large. "Let us watch some cartoons instead. It'll be fun." She turned on the TV, the flickering screen slicing through the heavy silence, but the static buzzed with unease. As Lily settled onto the couch, her eyes still drifting to the doll, Sarah fought to bury her mounting anxiety. Could she keep Lily safe while Mr. Cole watched from the shadows? Suddenly, a loud knock resonated at the door. The sound blasted through Sarah, sending her heart racing. She exchanged a quick glance with Lily, who jumped at the noise, her small body squirming with uncertainty. "Stay here," Sarah instructed, echoing the weight of her fear. She tiptoed towards the door, every instinct screaming at her to flee. "Who is it?" she called, her voice tremulous. Silence answered back, wrapping tightly around her like a shroud. All she could hear was the erratic beating of her heart. Another knock, more insistent this time, rattled the door. "Sarah, let me in, please," a voice wheezed from the other side, dark and familiar. Mr. Cole, the dread that pooled in her stomach twisted like poisoned vines. "I can't." She stammered, frantically searching for words as uncertainty knotted in her throat. He should be out, away from her house, away from her daughter. Why was he here? "Please." "It's important," he insisted, his voice low and almost sing-song, laced with an unsettling undercurrent. There was a chill in the room, a heaviness that pulled at Sarah's resolve, but she stood her ground, clutching the doorknob as if it was a lifeline. "What do you want?" she demanded. "Only to help. The darkness closes in, and it's coming for Lily. You need to listen to me." Visions of shadowy figures and distorted chants flooded her mind, merging with the remnant echoes of her own childhood fears. Desperation mingled with terror, sending icy fingers of dread creeping up her arms. What if he was right? Lily's innocent voice broke through, "Mommy, I want the doll." The world spun, fear warping her perception as she turned back towards the living room. The doll, the eyes that gleamed with a knowledge Sarah didn't understand, now loomed large in her mind, as sinister whispers wrapped tighter around her thoughts. Waves of panic crashed over her. "No, Lily, don't touch it," she shouted, a mix of urgency and terror stark in her voice. The air thickened, pressing in on Sarah as if the walls themselves shrank. The whispers outside grew louder, merging with the static from the television, until it was a cacophony. "Please, Sarah." Mr. Cole's voice was a chilling caress. "You don't know what you're dealing with." The door rattled violently as a new force slammed against it, sending tremors through the lock. Sarah glanced back at the flimsy wooden barrier. The shadows were alive, and her time was running out. What lay beyond that door? Was it merely Mr. Cole, or something far more menacing? And in her ability to protect her daughter, how many more shadows would she have to face? As she held the door firmly shut, with terrified breaths echoing off the walls, a single thought crashed through her mind. What if the doll was the key to all of it? The television flickered ominously, the static now taking on an almost sentient quality, crawling under her skin. The whispering outside intensified, turning to a chorus of hushed tones, almost pleading, threading through the growing chaos. "Mommy, I want it," Lily insisted, her innocent eyes fixed on the doll as if it were a beacon calling to her across a stormy sea. Each word twisted inside Sarah's mind like a knife. No! She shouted, a visceral panic bursting out in the middle of the suffocating atmosphere. Stay away from that thing. She rushed towards Lily, her own heart echoing in her ears like a war drum. The doll's eyes seemed to glint maliciously under the erratic light of the TV, an unsettling grin stretching across its painted face. A loud crash against the door made the house tremble. Sarah's hands trembled as she tried to steady her breath, her eyes wide with fright. Lily, go to your room. Now! The urgency in her voice stirred Lily momentarily, but fascination held her still, transfixed upon the doll. It was as though the space between each tick of the clock dragged with invisible hands, stretching time as the brutality of fear clawed at Sarah. Why won't you listen to me? Sarah shouted, pushing her daughter toward the hallway. With a tight grip on Lily's shoulder, she forced her towards the sanctuary of her room. Just stay there. I'll be right back. As Lily turned to her, a slight frown flickered across her lips. But Mommy, it wants to play something. In Lily's tone sent a fresh wave of dread surging through Sarah. Time felt slippery, almost surreal. She glanced back at the door, which had begun to warp under the force of whatever was outside. The menacing rattle intensified, sending splinters of wood across the floor as the frame shook violently. Let me in, Sarah. You have to believe me. Mr. Cole's voice bled through the door, thick with urgency. You don't know what you're inviting in by ignoring it. Ignoring? She was terrified. She wanted nothing but to run. It was just a doll, but what if it wasn't he? Help us. With a frantic move, she yanked at the door's lock but hesitated. Opening the door meant surrendering her mind to the shadows that lingered, the whispers that promised secrets unburdened by daylight. Mommy. Lily's voice pulled her sharply, a cry that was drenched in both fear and desire, as if the doll had become a puppet stringing her along. The air shifted again, like a warning breeze echoing through the haunted remnants of the house. A flick of movement caught Sarah's eye. She turned towards the living room and felt her heart plummet. The doll had moved. It was no longer in its original place, still as a statue when she last looked. Now it leaned slightly, as if eager to meet her gaze. Lily, Sarah whispered, her voice dangerously low, get away from it. But fear had already taken root in her daughter's heart. Almost in a trance, Lily stepped closer. It's telling me things. I want to get back. Sarah screamed, her throat cracking as she lunged toward her daughter. The room plunged into a bleak silence. The distant sounds morphed into strangled breaths, gurgles that echoed off the walls like grotesque laughter. Just as she reached for Lily, the door shuddered violently one last time. With a splintering crash, it burst open, revealing Mr. Cole, eyes wild, his expression shifting between the frenzy of fear and an urgency that made Sarah shiver. Let me help you. He yelled, rushing forward before his eyes snapped to the doll. No. Not the doll. You must not let her. Before he could finish, the tension fragmented, and an unseen force swept him off his feet, flinging him back against the wall. Mommy. Lily shrieked, her little hands gripping the doll as if it were a lifeline, but Sarah felt her own body freeze, caught between terror and the overwhelming need to protect her child. 1,000 thoughts clouded her mind, battles between fear and a primal urge to confront the darkness gathering around them. Mommy, it's time, Lily said softly, her face twisted into a smile that didn't belong to her. What have you done? Sarah breathed, stepping back as the shadows grew thicker, creeping along the walls like a conquering army. She could hear the whispers now, flooding her ears, weaving tales of despair and darkness, inviting her to let go. Struggling to hold on to reality, she realized. What if her daughter was no longer just a child? Panic surged anew. Black swirls circled through the room, wrapping around them like snakes ready to strike. Lily. We have to leave. But the doll was already beginning to glow, pulsating beneath the weight of something old, something terrible. In that moment, Sarah knew a choice had to be made. Would she embrace the shadows or fight for the light? As the very foundation of her world crumbled, a voice within whispered a sinister promise yet to unveil. Would she dare confront the truth? Or would the darkness finally claim them both? The air crackled with a tangible heaviness, pressing down on Sarah like the weight of 1,000 stones. The doll pulsed a bright, unnatural red, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls, twisting their shapes as if mocking her desperation. Lily stood there, the eerie smile still smeared across her face, but her eyes weren't her own anymore. "Mommy, please." Lily pleaded, voice layered with something unsettling, something deep. "It's so lonely. It just wants a friend." "No!" Sarah shouted, the power of defiance cracking the suffocating darkness. "You're my daughter. You don't need that thing." Mr. Cole groaned on the floor, massaging his shoulders, his eyes darting from the doll to Lily. "You have to snap her out of it. It's feeding on her." He struggled to his feet, but fear kept him firmly planted, dragged down by 1,000 invisible chains forged in the dark. The whispers crescendoed, turning into a cacophony of despair. Words rolled through Sarah's mind, tumbling over each other, like rats fighting for their lives. And within that chaos, a familiar voice emerged. It wasn't Lily. It was the doll. "Let her go, Sarah. She belongs with me now," it cooed, its head tilting in an unnatural position. "Her fear feeds me. You've brought me into your home, and now she must join our game. Stay away from her." Sarah's voice trembled with a mix of fury and terror. She felt the familiar pull of despair, the primal urge to flee, but she couldn't. "Not this time. Mommy. Help me." Lily cried, flailing her arms, but instead of terror, there was something almost joyful in her voice, something deep inside Sarah felt chipped away, as if some dark power was gnawing at her heart. "Lily. Fight it. You can fight this." The conviction in her voice cracked, revealing the raw edge of fear beneath. Lily blinked, just for a moment. That flicker of recognition sent a fresh wave of strength coursing through Sarah. "Run, Lily. Get out of here." She lunged toward the doll, determined to break whatever grip it had on her daughter. But the moment Sarah reached for the doll, a freezing wind swept through the room. It wrapped around her arms, pulling her back as though invisible hands held her in place. Terrified, Sarah struggled against them, her eyes wide in sheer disbelief. "Let her go!" Mr. Cole shouted, desperation cracking his voice. "You're fighting a losing battle." "No!" The doll's voice surged with anger, distorting into a ghastly reflection of human rage. Black tendrils snaked out from its body, stretching toward Sarah, hungry for her fear. In one solid motion, a scream erupted from Sarah's chest. Not her scream, it belonged to something far scarier, something ancient and twisted that echoed behind the doll's facade. "Lily!" She cried, reaching for her daughter again, but it was as if a chasm had opened, tearing them apart. The dark energy surged, pouring forth and wrapping itself around her body. As fear enveloped her, Sarah clung to the memory of her daughter's laughter, her innocent, sweet giggles that echoed through the halls like a calming melody against the shadows. It was fading, crushed beneath the weight of dread. "Mommy," Lily whispered again, and through that, Sarah felt the flicker once more. The last vestiges of her daughter's spirit fighting to break free from the doll's clutches. "Yes. Fight. You can do this." Sarah shouted, desperation rising to a frantic pitch. But even through the cacophony, unmistakable laughter unraveled through the twisted silence, one that was not Lily's. "Does she really want to leave? Or do you doubt her will? Join us. We will play forever." As the laughter echoed off the walls, a sharp crackle burst from the TV, drawing their attention. It pulsed with harsh static before projecting a hazy silhouette, fraying at the edges like forgotten memories desperately trying to resurface. Suddenly, everything froze. "Tell me, Sarah. Are you willing to take the plunge?" In that moment, she realized the battle was not over, but merely beginning. The shadows loomed, a foreboding reminder of the choice still before them. What would she sacrifice to reclaim her daughter, her own soul, perhaps? And as the doll's eyes gleamed menacingly, Sarah understood one terrifying truth: she was running out of time. The voices screeched in delight, urging her to fall deeper into their embrace. What choice could possibly lead them back from the brink? The room pulsated, thick with tension. Sarah felt the chill claw at her skin, her breath hitching in her throat. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to run and escape the nightmare, yet there was no way out. In front of her, the doll stood, its crimson glow casting a sinister brilliance that illuminated Lily's frightened face. "Mommy, I can feel it." Lily gasped, her eyes darting between Sarah and the doll, shimmering in a haze of confusion. "It wants everything, Mommy. Everything. Stay with me, sweetheart. Don't listen to it." Sarah's voice trembled, her body convulsing against the cold tendrils tightening around her limbs. Panic swirled in her chest like a tempest, threatening to swallow her whole. But the doll just smiled, that unnatural expression stretching wider. "You know, Sarah, a mother's love knows no bounds, but would you truly sacrifice for her? All that you hold dear? All you've ever been?" A surge of dread washed over her. Was the doll right? Every fiber of her being screamed to save Lily. Yet, what would happen to her? The whispers fed into her doubt, twisting it, weaving a tapestry of despair. The static from the TV boomed louder, distorting the air and fraying her nerves. A flickering image resolved faces twisted in agony, eyes wide with terror, each a ghastly reminder of the fate suffered by those who had come before her. "Don't let it in, Sarah. Don't give it power," Mr. Cole shouted, but his voice was just another ghost lost amidst the dark symphony. "Join us," the doll crooned softly, the words twisting around her like ivy. "We'll never be lonely again. We'll always play." And Lily, her eyes suddenly looked so distant, a veil draping her soul. "Mommy, it's so nice here, please. Don't pull me back." "No. Fight, Lily." Sarah gasped, desperation clawing at her throat. "You're stronger than this. We can beat it together. Remember your favorite book? The one where the hero never gave up?" That seemed to strike a chord. For a brief moment, the shadows flickered, the essence of her daughter sparking to life. I remember," Lily whimpered, almost breaking free. "Hold on. Just hold on." The fight in Sarah surged like a wild river. She pushed against the invisible restraint, her body shuddering under the weight of terror. But the doll's laughter boomed, a twisted symphony of doom echoing around them. "Nothing can save her now, Sarah. Nothing except surrender." The shadows thickened. They drew closer, whispering secrets of untold misery. The world around them began to blur, the very fabric of reality stretching and warping as she fought against the primal pull. Time felt distorted, each breath turning raw in her throat. "I won't give up. I love you," Sarah shouted, her heart thudding against her chest, a fierce declaration against the growing shadows. Yet, with every heartbeat, the darkness coiled tighter. Suddenly, the doll's eyes flashed, drawing color from the world until all was black. The room swirled. Voices converged into an unearthly chorus, beckoning her into the void. "Sarah!" It was Lily's voice, breaking through the darkness just before it consumed them both. "Help me, please. Fight it. Don't let it win." Sarah screamed, fighting against the dark tide that desired to drag them under. But the doll's gaze held her entranced. A chilling calm settled in as it whispered. "The answer lies in the darkness, dear mother. Embrace it, and you shall find her." As time twisted, Sarah could feel herself slipping. A frightening abyss threatened to swallow them whole. Was there a way for both of them to survive this horror? And then, a sudden burst of heat pulsed through her. It felt like hope, flickering amidst the shadows that threatened to snuff it out. But would it be enough to break the chains binding them? The final confrontation loomed like a heavy fog and they were running out of time. What would she risk to save Lily? What secrets of the dark would she need to unearth? A blinding flash tore through the darkness, slicing it apart for a brief moment. Sarah clutched her head, gasping as the brightness threatened to flood her senses. The echoes of who she was, who she hoped to be, surged in her mind. The warmth pulsing within her felt red-hot. It was an ember struggling against an avalanche of freezing cold. Mommy Lily's distant whisper pierced through, fragile like glass. "I can't see, please help me." "No, no, no." The words escaped Sarah as a primal scream, desperate and raw. The doll loomed larger than life, its eyes twinkling with anticipation. It thrived on her fear, feasting on every quiver of despair. "Lily, hold on. I'm coming." The room twisted again, and Sarah crumpled to the floor, the chilling air wrapping tighter around her like a serpent coiling before the strike. It tried to stifle her will, but she was fueled by love, a love that burned brighter than the darkness surrounding them. Suddenly, eyes flickered open in the shadows, an audience sent to witness her defeat. The faces twisted in anguish, mouths mimicking silent screams. Memories of lost souls tormented by their choices boomed in her ears, drowning her thoughts. She swiped at them, brushing them aside like autumn leaves blown by a ruthless wind. "No more!" Sarah shouted, fury igniting within her. "You don't own us." The doll paused, a moment of comprehension flashing across its grotesque features. "You think you can fight? The darkness is welcoming, dear Sarah. It's where all your answers lie." The urge to listen surged again, wrapping around her like a thick rope. Was surrender truly the only path? The thought felt like poison, dark and tempting. "Lily." She managed to croak through the weight of dread. "If you can hear me, fight back. Remember who you are." But before Lily could respond, the shadows began shifting again. A shrill laughter erupted, filling the air with suffocating glee. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms, imitating the worst nightmares that had once haunted her dreams. Each laugh rang like a bell tolling, foreshadowing doom. "Let me show you what you've forgotten," the doll's voice murmured, an intoxicating sweetness that lured her in. It reached an arm toward her, fingers extending, beckoning, whispering her darkest thoughts. Sarah shook her head violently, struggling against the feeling surging. She pressed her palms against her temples, trying to block it out. Memories flooded her, laughing in the park with Lily, reading stories at bedtime, baking cookies with flour dusting their faces. Those moments shimmered like a distant sunrise through the haze of despair. They were her anchors across this stormy sea of shadows. "Now!" she shouted, her voice strong as steel. The warmth within her grew again, pushing against the icy grip tightening around her. As if jolted from slumber, Lily's eyes sparked with recognition. "Mommy. I want to come back. I don't want to stay here." "Then fight. We are stronger than this." The room trembled, and vibrations of defiance spilling from them. The doll's smile faltered as agony flash brushed its face. "No. You belong to me." It shrieked, the shadows screaming in protest as light fought against them. With every ounce of her being, Sarah pulled Lily toward the warmth, drawing them both away from the doll's clutch. The flicker of hope blazed, illuminating their path. But the doll leaned in closer, its malevolent grin stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "You will regret this, Sarah. You cannot escape your true self. Come back to the darkness." Then the shadows surged forward, seeking to engulf them both once more. They collided and twisted around Sarah and Lily, the air thickening with despair. Would their bond withstand the pull? As the edges of her vision clouded, Sarah realized she was standing on a precipice. The darkness loomed below, a gaping maw, hungry. Was this the moment of truth, the moment where all hope crumbled? Just then, a distant glimmer drew her gaze, an aching echo of warmth. Could it lead them out, or would it lead them deeper into this maelstrom of terror? The choice hung in the air, and as darkness rushed towards them, Sarah knew, they had to move, or be consumed. What would they discover if they dared to chase the light? The blackness roared around Sarah, pressing in on her like the weight of 1,000 nightmares. She was oblivious to the cold, the sharpness of panic prickling her skin. Her heart pounded like a drum, an urgent reminder that time was slipping. "Lily, we have to go now," she screamed, desperately searching for that glimmering hope amid the chaos. In an instant, the shadows shuddered. Tendrils of cold shadow reached out, wrapping around her ankles like barbed wire. Sarah jerked backwards as the weight of despair clawed at her legs. A blinding flash shot through the darkness again, illuminating the room just long enough for her to see Lily, her daughter's small frame trembling, swallowed by a figure that was once an inanimate doll. "Mommy! It's pulling me!" Lily's voice trembled, a mixture of fear and courage. "Hold on to me. Please." But her words were drowned by an echoing roar that spiraled into deafening silence. The laughter returned, sharper this time, slicing deeper, mocking and triumphant. Sarah felt the doll's presence creep closer, malice radiating off its porcelain skin like oily smoke. "No more games," she barked, filled with a sudden surge of defiance. "You don't hold power over us." But the doll lingered, its twisted smile spreading further as shadows twisted around it, thrumming with dark energy. "You fool! You're reaching for what's lost. The light is your prison. You belong to the shadows." Again, the faces from the corners shifted, distorting to hysterical grins. Were they all once trapped in this cursed predicament? Panic bloomed in Sarah's chest. Their eyes were hollow, and she could feel an ache. Was that fear? Regret? She shuddered, forcing herself to shake loose those thoughts. "Focus on me, Lily. Remember our love, our joy." With fierce determination, Sarah stretched out her hand. She could feel the warmth radiating from Lily, struggling against the cold shackles of the doll's hold. The shadows shrieked, writhing in protest. But a flicker of light pushed against the obsidian darkness. "That's it. Together," she urged. Taking a breath deep enough to fill her soul, Sarah moved toward the light, dragging Lily's spirit with hers. The process felt torturous. The gravity of the shadows pulled her back, the weight suffocating as she fought against them. Underneath her crushing despair, an ember ignited once more. It flickered, flaring with each heartbeat, until it whispered promises of safety through the tempest. "We can make it. Just a little more." The shadows shrieked louder now, drowning out every sound, the tortured souls circling them. Fingers of darkness scratched at Sarah, icy and merciless, but she pushed forward, stoking the flicker, igniting it into a blaze. Light melded with love, her love, and with a storm of willpower, she lunged into the glow. Reduced to shadow and anger, the doll screeched, a sound that felt like nails on glass. "You cannot escape." A sudden rush of warmth enveloped her, growing until it pulsed against her chest, the primal love for her daughter, driving her higher. Then, the darkness vanished as an overwhelming light filled her senses. But within that spark of lucidity, confusion stirred. She could no longer see the doll or the terrifying silhouettes. Where was Lily? Lily? Her voice echoed ominously in the stillness. Sarah's heart raced as a fear far worse than the shadows started to crawl in. What if it had snatched Lily away while she blinked? No. She flailed about, despair gripping her throat tight. Shadows flickered around her, threatening to swallow her whole again. Suddenly, from somewhere in the murky twilight, another voice emerged, distinctly familiar but heavier, distorted as if crushed by fear. "Mommy." The whisper trembled through the air, but it followed the crack of an illusion, glimmering but dimming fast. "Where are you?" As echoes of Lily's voice trembled in the air, Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. What awaited her now? Had they truly fled the darkness, or was this just another layer to peel back, a chilling thought crept back. Could they ever truly escape the shadows? What horrors lay in wait behind the radiant glow? The air thickened with uncertainty as Sarah felt the oppressive weight returning, inching, creeping closer. With each second, the luminous beacon pulsed weaker. What would rise from the darkness next? "Mommy!" The faint cry echoed around her, but it was dissolving, fading back into the void from which it emerged. Panic surged through Sarah like ice water, snaking its way into her veins. "Lily!" A suffocating silence answered her, thickened with dread. She stumbled forward, each step feeling like wading through molasses. The air was charged, swirling with unseen forces that seemed to mock her desperate pleas. She reached out, fingers brushing against the cold nothingness that surrounded her. "Where are you?" Her voice was nearly a whisper now, barely capable of fighting against the shroud of fear clutching at her throat. She could almost picture her daughter, small and bright, slipping away further into the shadows, but then, as if the darkness had sensed her growing despair, the shadows shifted once more. They coalesced into forms a swirling mass of warped faces, their mouths twisted into frozen screams. They hovered just at the edges of her perception, like spectral reflections caught in a cruel mirror. "Join us," they hissed in unison, their voices a cacophony of tormented souls. "You cannot help her. We are her destiny. Get away!" Sarah shouted, forcing her way through the pressing darkness, willing her heart to believe she was still in control. The warmth of love for Lily, for all the moments that made her life worth fighting for, fueled her resolve, igniting the dim light flickering within. But it felt slighter now. Dimming. Shadows clawed at her, each scratch colder than the last, and the distorted faces twisted in laughter, relishing her struggle. "Lily!" Desperation clawed at her throat. "I won't leave you. Not now." She inhaled sharply, caught between sobs and a roaring determination. Taking one last breath, she flung herself towards the last remnants of light, each heartbeat a rhythmic drum calling out for the bond they shared. Another flicker. "Mommy!" The voice was louder, clearer this time, grounded in something real, something she could almost grasp. Before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the light surged violently, illuminating a narrow corridor formed by glistening shadows. The flickering warmth emanating from the end felt inviting, but even as she moved, a shiver ran down her spine. Shadows pressed against her back, as if they were alive, fury punctuating their every whisper. "Turn back. It's a trick." They screeched, filling her mind with harrowing images, bleak memories of failed attempts, failed rescues. But she pushed forward, driven by the fierce bond between her and Lily. Each step grew heavier, laden with a sense of foreboding. The corridor crumbled around her, but the light beckoned, vibrant against the emptiness. There it was, a glimmer. A door at the end, barely ajar, whispering of safety. "Lily?" As she reached the threshold, the door swung wide, revealing an expansive, sunlit room filled with familiar faces. Relief washed over her, intoxicating and consuming. She rushed forward, crying Lily's name with reckless abandon, but the faces turned towards her, and she froze. They were not her loved ones. Each face had the same vacant expression, eyes hollow and mouth curled in a ghastly grin perfectly mimicked masks of her friends, family, each promising safety, yet radiating malevolence. "Welcome back, Sarah," they cooed, dissonant hymns that sent chills racing through her body. "You've come home." Fear clenched her heart. She felt the shadows pressing against her back again, pushing her towards the welcoming faces that were anything but real. "No. This isn't right." She stumbled backward, panic surging anew. The door slammed shut with a thunderous boom, plunging the room into darkness once again, but it was different. This darkness resonated with triumph. And then she heard it. The torment of her daughter's voice, echoing from a distance. "Mommy." The call was soft, almost a ghost of itself, lost in the hysteria of Sarah's surroundings. Where was she? That way. The shadows beckoned, fingers of night lifting Sarah's chin, guiding her deeper into the nightmare. Her heart raced. Would this lead her to Lily, or was she falling into the trap of despair? The darkness festered, gleeful in its hunger, swirling around her, but that same ember of determination flickered, the warmth of love battling against the suffocating void. Until a shadow pulled at her again, insistent and heavy. What if her daughter's cries were nothing but a mirage, and Sarah was merely walking deeper into the world of endless shadows? As her resolve faltered amidst those threatening shadows, looming closer than ever, what price would she pay to find out the truth? The shadows coiled tighter around Sarah, constricting her every movement. She felt their coldness seep into her skin, a chilling reminder of how alone she was in this forsaken place. The laughter of the faceless apparitions echoed in her mind, shrill and mocking, drowning out Lily's distant calls. "Mommy!" The word reverberated, yet each echo grew weaker, fading further. Panic gripped her gut, squeezing until it hurt. She stumbled back, fear clawing at her heart. Was this truly her daughter's voice, or had the darkness twisted her mind, feeding her hollow hopes? "Lily, hold on!" She shouted into the void, desperation spilling out. As she ventured further into the depths, her feet slipped on an unseen slick surface, and she tumbled, landing hard. Pain shot through her body, and she lay there, engulfed in an eerie silence. Breathing heavily, she forced herself to look up, the darkness swirling like a thick fog. With a quivering breath, Sarah pressed her palms against the cold ground, trying to push herself up. "Lily," she whispered, voice wavering like a candle's flame in a draught. Suddenly, the shadows shuddered, forming a winding path leading deeper into the dark. "Follow," they urged, a chilling invitation that sent ripples of fear racing down her spine. "No!" she cried, anger boiling against her fear. It was a trick, a way to draw her away from her daughter. Yet, as she stood up, the shadows seemed almost to coalesce, forming limbs that reached for her. Disoriented, she staggered back, what had once felt like solid ground dropped away, and she found herself standing on the precipice of a vast chasm, the walls of darkness whispering sweet lies, promising relief if she only took one step forward. But uncertainty gnawed at her. Was stepping closer to the edge a risk worth taking? "Stay away!" she screamed, her voice swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Then she heard it again, the soft, pleading call of Lily. "Mommy!" It carried through the air like a beacon, drawing her in, filling her lungs with newfound hope. She curdled, the terror swirling within her, willing herself to heed that cry. With a deep breath, she ignored the shadows pulling her toward despair and took a step towards the sound. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. Shards of shadow shattered like glass around her, and she felt weightless, as if suspended in the air. The darkness recoiled, howling in anger as she moved forward, but as she plunged deeper into the void, the walls shimmered. Each surface reflected glimmers of Lily's sweet face, smiling, laughing, unscathed. It was a piercing contrast to the shadows' sneering glee, and panic crawled around her body like ants. "Is this real?" she questioned, fighting against the desire to reach out, but doubt loomed at the edges of her thoughts. "Is this just a trick?" "Mommy!" Another cry rang out, clear as day. This time, it was followed by a soft whimper that blended in with the shadows around her. Sarah's heart dropped. Even desperation felt fishy, messy like splattered paint on a canvas. Just then, a flicker of light burst to life at the far edge of the chasm. It pulsed rhythmically, dancing in waves, beckoning, seemingly alive. Clenching her teeth in focus, she raced towards it, the shadows writhing and shrieking, furious at her defiance. They wailed in cacophonous disarray as she approached the light. It flickered but remained steady. The warmth radiated against her skin, and she felt herself float closer like a moth to a flame. No longer alone, every bit of her being thrumming with determination. She looked back. The shadows surged forward, mouths twisted in a silent, furious scream, as if they were wrestling against something far more powerful. She knew she had to go. Lily's call grew stronger, an uncanny echo heralding hope amidst despair. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice a rallying cry against the suffocating night. But just as she reached toward that glowing warmth, a dark figure lunged from the shadows, and the chasm roared. Each sound was agony, engulfing her in its might. Sarah felt her heart race, irrevocably torn between the safety of that light and the terror of the darkness behind her. With one final surge of energy, she lunged, desperate to close the distance. What would she find on the other side? Would it lead her back to her daughter or take her into a darkness from which there was no return? The blinding light enveloped Sarah as she tore through the shadowy barrier, heart hammering like a war drum. It was as if she had broken through the surface of a lake after holding her breath for too long. Every breath she took filled her chest with warmth, every moment pushed the darkness further away. "Mommy." The voice was unmistakable, pure. It cut through the haze like a beacon. The shadows thrashed behind her, their vengeful cries clawing futilely at the emerging warmth. She stumbled into a vast, sunlit room where every corner was alive with golden happiness, vibrant colors stretching beyond the confines of her devastated home. She blinked in disbelief melting into desperation. "Lily! Over here!" Lily's voice chimed again, joy bubbling from her like a sparkling stream. Sarah spun around, and there, in the center of the room, the source of that radiant voice appeared. Lily stood tall, eyes bright, clinging to the edges of a beautiful tapestry, scenes of their happiest moments woven together, each thread glowing with life. As Sarah approached, she saw that her daughter seemed untouched by darkness, bathed in warm light. "Mommy!" She rushed forward, but as she did, shadows loomed at the room's periphery, still swirling, hungry and relentless. "Don't look back," Sarah cautioned, her voice trembling with urgency. She stepped closer, feeling the warmth emanating from the tapestry. It was a connection, a bridge to every sweet memory, the comforting nights, the laughter, the love. The essence of their life together pulsed vibrantly between them like a heartbeat. "Mommy, the doll!" Lily shouted, suddenly fearful, her bright expression darkening. "It's coming." "No. It can't take you." Sarah fought against the dread creeping back, the heavy veil of despair that tried to seep in. "You're safe. You have to," but before she could finish, the walls of warmth began to flicker. The doll's shrieking laughter echoed in the distance, dark and taunting. "You think you can hide? I brought you here, and you can't escape." The shadows swarmed around the room, tendrils of night curling around the edges, pressing against the seams of their happiness, threatening to tear it apart. "I won't let you take her." Sarah's voice trembled with fierce determination. She remembered every moment of love and joy, every innocent giggle shared with her daughter. Her heart surged. "We are stronger than the darkness." With that thought she stepped up to the tapestry, reaching for the shimmering threads. A sensation unlike any other flooded her as the memories crackled to life. With every ounce of love for her daughter, Sarah pulled at those memories, weaving them into a shield. "No!" The doll howled, rising from the depths of shadow, a form of twisted malicious fury. Its once charming smile transformed into a snarl filled with rage. "You will regret this. The darkness is all-consuming." But Sarah pushed forward, clutching Lily's hand tightly. "Together, we'll break the spell." They stepped into the warmth of the tapestry, and as they did, the light erupted, fracturing the shadows while forcing the doll's icy grip to recede. Every thread in the tapestry vibrated in response to their unity, shimmering with warmth and dispelling the shadows that had threatened to engulf them. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily cried, but Sarah tightened her grip, determination blazing in her eyes. "Look!" she shouted, pointing to the glowing threads around them. "It's our love. We can fight it together." The shadows roared, their screams melding into a cacophony, thrashing and twisting in desperate attempts to reclaim what they had lost, but now, their power waned. "Apply all of the love you have," Sarah urged, her heart racing. The shadows coiled haphazardly, lashes of darkness too weak to deter their light. Remember every laugh, every joy. Cast it all onto the tapestry. Lily's eyes widened, and she nodded, her innocent spirit igniting at her mother's words. I love you. I love you so much. As the two of them poured their love into the tapestry, it erupted in a radiant display, pushing the shadows back further. Until they began to melt away, shriveling under the weight of their connection. With one final push of love, the tapestry erupted in a blinding light, and Sarah threw herself forward, shielding Lily from the last of the shadows as the doll's twisted laughter turned into heart-wrenching screams. No! It wailed as the light consumed it, leaving nothing but an echo. Silence followed, an exhilarating silence that felt as soft as a blanket. No more shadows. Sarah breathed heavily as she and Lily turned to each other, eyes wide with relief and disbelief. The remnants of the room around them shimmered, glints of warmth left in place of their former prison. Mommy! We did it! Lily squealed, leaping into Sarah's arms, and Sarah hugged her tightly, her heart bursting with triumph. Always, Sarah whispered, her voice filled with love. I'll always protect you. As mother and daughter embraced, the room pulsed one last time with golden light. Their sanctuary transformed, a beautiful home filled with laughter and the whispers of memories yet to come. Crestview still lay beyond its walls, a haunting reminder of their past, but Sarah felt something shift within her, a determined strength forged against fear. This was a new beginning. They had conquered the shadows together. And as they stepped forward into their new life, Sarah knew that no darkness could extinguish the light of their bond. Before we close, listen carefully. If you love this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button before you leave to help fuel more stories like this one. And I want to hear from all of you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts. What do you think about Sarah's journey? What kind of tales do you want next? Don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need a thrill. Only true fans understand the power of supporting the channel. Let us keep this community growing.